Hello everyone, I am Krunal Panchal, working as an assistant professor in Computer Engineering Department at LJ Institute of Engineering and Technology. Welcome all to the video lecture series of operating system with respect to the syllabus of Gujarat Technological University. In this session, we are going to continue unit number 2, in which we are going to discuss the example of FCFS, first come first serve CPU scheduling algorithm. Okay, but before going to discuss the example, as we have discussed in the last session, there are certain advantages and disadvantages of FCFS algorithm. So what are the advantages that we have discussed in the last session? The FCFS algorithm is simple to implement. There is no consideration of burst time according to the arrival time. Okay, according to the arrival time, we are scheduling the process for execution. Okay, so that's why uh, in general the average waiting time of first come first serve CPU scheduling algorithm is high. Okay, what are the uh, main drawback of FCFS? First one is, as I told you, we are not considering the burst time to schedule the process. So that's why it is the waiting time can be more as compared to other algorithms. So that is the one limitation. The other limitations of FCFS algorithm is nothing but if processes with higher burst time arrived before, this is the one problem when we are dealing with FCFS algorithm. Okay, what is the problem? If processes with higher burst time arrived before the processes with smaller burst time, then smaller processes have to wait for a long time for longer process to release the CPU. And this problem is known as convoy effect. This is the main limitation, or you say drawback of FCFS algorithm. As we have discussed in the last session, the working of working of FCFS algorithm, in which the smaller process have to wait for long time for bigger process to release the CPU. Yes, so that is the main problem, and this problem is known as convoy effect. Okay, because we are not scheduling the process according to the burst time, we are scheduling the process according to the arrival time only. In the case of first come first serve, whoever come first will get the CPU first. That is the main logic of FCFS scheduling algorithm. So that's why such type of problem occurs. So that is the reason why it is less efficient as compared to other algorithms. Okay, so once you have the understanding of FCFS scheduling algorithm, its pros and cons, okay, means advantages and disadvantages. Now we are going to discuss the example of FCFS algorithm. Okay, so let us consider this example. Okay, as far as uh, these processes are concerned, let us discuss. There are set of 5 processes we have, P1 to P5. These are the different processes who arrive, whose arrival time, and burst times are given below. So this table is given to you as an input. Okay, in which we have, say for example, how many processes? 5 processes are there, P1 to P5, and each process as its own arrival time and burst time. So what is arrival time? Arrival time means what? The time the process entered into a system, that is called arrival time. And burst time means what? That this process, or you can say any process, requires to execute in the CPU, that time requires, that time is nothing but a burst time. So means what? A P1 process requires 5 units of 5 units time, okay, for execution in the CPU. Same way P1, the arrival time of P1 is what? 4. The arrival time of P2 is 6. The arrival time of P3 is 0. So this arrival time and this burst time of these processes are given to you as a input. Okay. And now what you need to calculate? So you need to calculate the average waiting time and average turnaround time, okay, by considering the FCFS scheduling algorithm. FCFS stands for first come first serve scheduling algorithm. Okay, so how to calculate, average waiting time and average turnaround time by considering FCFS scheduling algorithm. So this table is given to you. So by using this table, okay, first of all, we will plot one Gantt chart, okay, or you can say it is also known as timeline chart, okay. So as far as this problem is concerned, or this example is concerned, first of all we will draw the Gantt chart, okay, and according to the Gantt chart, we will finally calculate the average waiting time and average turnaround time. Okay, so let us discuss how we can draw the Gantt chart based on this table. Okay, so let us, based on this table, we can easily come to know that as we are discussing FCFS algorithm, as I told you, FCFS follows arrival time only to schedule the process for execution. Except arrival time, nothing is important as far as FCFS algorithm is concerned to schedule the process. Okay, so according to the seniority in terms of arrival time, the FCFS algorithm schedule the process for execution in the CPU. Okay, so let us see this Gantt chart in which, okay, out of this table entries, we have 5 processes we have, and out of 5, the arrival time of P1 is 4, arrival time of P2 is 6, arrival time of P3 is 0, arrival time of P4 is 6, and this P5 is 5. So who is the senior most process in terms of arrival time? So P3, because P3 arrived at time 0. At time 0. So according to the FCFS, the P3 process needs to be scheduled for execution first among these processes, among the available processes, because it arrived first. Should have, that's why it needs to be scheduled first for execution. So P3, so that's why we have considered P3 process over here, and the arrival time of P3 is what? 0. Okay, this is nothing but arrival time. Okay, and arrival time and execution time of P3, starting arrival time and the allocation of resource, or this is CPU time, is same in the case of P3 process because it arrived at time 0. At that point of time, no other process has arrived. Okay, so that's why only one choice we have, P3. So P3 needs to be scheduled for execution, and P3 requires 3 units of time for its execution. So because FCFS is a non-preemptive type of algorithm, or you can say it is nothing but non-preemptive nature algorithm. So once the process is scheduled for execution, okay, no other process can forcefully preempt the CPU for its own execution. Okay, it is not possible in the case of FCFS algorithm because it is non-preemptive in nature. Means once a particular process has started its execution in the CPU, okay, once it completes or once it requires the input output devices, okay, in these two conditions only the other process can access the CPU. Okay, so in this case P3 started its execution and it requires 3 unit of time. So 3 unit of time 0 to 3. So this is nothing but this is nothing but exit time, or you can say end time of this process. Okay, so P3 is successfully executed at the time of time unit 3. Okay, now what will happen once it is once P3 is successfully executed? Means what? Now P3, this P3 is exist from the system. Now what are the remaining processes? We have P1, P2, P4 and P5. Now again we need to check according to the arrival time, we need to schedule the process. But right now we are at time unit 3. So we need to check at time unit 3, is there any other process has arrived or not in the ready queue? So again we need to check in the arrival time. P1 process arrival time is 4, P2 process arrival time is 6, P4 is arrival time is 6 and P5 is 5. So there is no process arrived in the ready queue right now. So what will happen in this case? Okay, from 3 to upcoming units, 3 to 4 we can say, 3 to 4, the processor, this shaded box, it is denoted as shaded box. This shaded box represents the idle time of CPU, because during this time no process is available in the ready queue. So that's why we cannot schedule any process for execution. And if you don't have any process, so CPU will be free in that case. So this shaded region from starting from 3 to 4 unit is denoted, or you can say it is called as idle time of CPU. Okay, so this is nothing but a wastage of CPU. Okay, now at time 4 again we need to check is there any other process arrived in the ready queue or not. So yes, there is one process, uh, its arrival time is 4. So yes, so we can schedule the P1 process. Is there any other process which arrives at time 4? No other process we have, only one option. So P1 would be scheduled for execution. Okay, and what is the running time, or say burst time of P1? 5 minutes. Okay, so P1 will be scheduled for execution and it will run for 5 minutes. So 4 plus 5 is equal to 9. So P1 would be executed in the CPU up to 9 unit. Okay. Once P1 executed its task, now at the time of 9, we need to check again what are the other processes we have in the ready queue. So you can compare this value 9, the value 9 is greater than the value of remaining process arrival time. Like say for example, now P3 and P2 is successfully executed from the system. So it is P3 and P1 is executed successfully executed from the system. So now what are the other options we have, like P2, P4 and P5. So now check arrival time of P2 is 6 and P5 is 5. So this all process arrival time is less than the time of the exit time of P1. It means now these 3 processes are arrived in the ready queue. Now we have to pick any one of this process, okay, to execute in the CPU, because we are dealing with uniprocessor machine. A single CPU can execute only one process at a time. So out of these 3 choices, we need to pick only one process So now which process will have turn to execute in the CPU? Because uh, this 6 is less than 5. 6, the value of 6 is, sorry, is greater than 5. So definitely P5 would be scheduled for execution. Okay, so because P5 arrival time, process P5 arrival time is 5. So now P5 would be scheduled for execution. And what is the execution time, or we say burst time of P5? 4 unit. So 9 plus 4 is equal to 13. So up to 13, P5 would be executed. Okay. And once it is executed successfully, it will come out from the system. And now we have only two choices, P2 and P4. P2 and P4. And you can see both the process having the same arrival time. So which process needs to be picked for execution? So we will check, in this case we will check, the process ID P2 and P4. So process index of P2 is 2 and process index of P4 is 4. So 4 is greater than P2, or we say 2. So that's why P2 would be scheduled first for execution. So P2 would be scheduled, and what is the execution time of P2? 4 unit. So 13 plus 4 is equal to 17, and P2 is executed during this duration. And once the P2 is successfully executed, now we have only one choice in ready queue, which is nothing but P4 process. Now P4 would be executed. So P4, how long it will be executed? It will be executed uh, starting from 17 to how much unit it requires? 2 units it requires. Burst time of P4 is 2. So that's why 17 plus 2 is equal to 19. So P4 at the end moment, P4 would be executed and it will be come out from the system. So in this way you can prepare the Gantt chart. This is very important. If you do certain mistakes in this, okay, the upcoming calculation would be wrong. So again, to prepare a Gantt chart is very important. So you have to practice it well, how to prepare a Gantt chart, okay, according to this set of inputs. Clear? So once this is the first step of our example. First step. Once we prepare the Gantt chart, now the next step is what? We will find out, because what is expected, we need to find out the average time and turnaround time. Okay, so if you want to find out waiting time and turnaround time, average waiting time and average turnaround time, so before that you need to find out the turnaround time and waiting time for each process, and then you have to calculate the average waiting time and average turnaround time. So let us find out waiting time and turnaround time for each process. Okay, so same table I have taken from the previous slide, and same Gantt chart I have taken from the previous slide. Okay, by having these two uh, values, now we are going to find out first of all turnaround time. What is turnaround time? So turnaround time is nothing but a total time a process requires for execution. Means what? It needs to consider the waiting time as well as it needs to consider the execution time of the process. So turnaround time means what? A total time of a execution of a particular process. So turnaround time is equal to the equation of turnaround time. If you want to find out, so what is the equation? Is equal to completion time minus arrival time. Means completion time, we can time requires to complete the execution of a particular process is called completion time. Okay, and arrival time is given to you as an input. So arrival time is given as an input. Yes. So arrival time we can easily fetch from the table. But how we can calculate the completion time? How we can find it out? So completion time we can find with the help of this Gantt chart. Okay, so that's why I told you Gantt chart is very important. Okay, for further calculation. So turnaround time, it's is equal to, as I told you in the previous session, turnaround time is equal to waiting time plus burst time. Okay, so according to this equation, we can uh, come out and find out, the value of turnaround time. So completion time, how we can find it out? Completion time. So completion time of a particular process, like say for example, if I'm talking about P3, when it when P3 exit from the system at unit 3, because the execution of P3 is successfully at this point. So the completion time of process P3 is nothing but 3. So in these ways, if same way, suppose if you want to find out the completion time of P5, so P5, the completion time of P5 is what? 13. Completion time of P4 is 19, like that. So completion time minus arrival time is equal to turnaround time. Okay. Now second expected criteria is what? Waiting time. So what is waiting time? Waiting time is nothing but total time minus execution time, or it is a running time. So total time is nothing but turnaround time of a process. Okay, minus burst time means what? Running, execution time. So total, if you subtract the running time from the total time, you will have the waiting time at the end. So again, it is very easy to find out waiting time. So turnaround time we have calculated with the help of this equation, and unit whatever the value we have of turnaround time, that values we need to consider over here, and with that value we need to subtract the burst time, because burst time is given to you as an input. So for each process burst time is given, and for each process arrival time is given. So these two values you can fetch from this table, and this value you need to fetch from the Gantt chart, and this value you will fetch from this output. Okay, so let us discuss this one. So this process ID we have written over here. Now the completion time for each process. How to find out completion time? As I told you, with the help of Gantt chart. So P1, process P1, where it is located? Over here. So what is the completion time of P1? 9 unit. So this 9 is written over here. So P2, where is P2? P2 is here. Okay, so what is the completion time of P2? 17. Same way P3, 3, P4, 19, P5, 13. So in this way we can easily find out completion time of each process. Now we need to find out the turnaround time and waiting time. So you first of all we'll discuss turnaround time. So we have discussed the equation of turnaround time. Turnaround time is equal to completion time minus arrival time. So as far as P1 process is concerned, so P1 process completion time is what? 9. 9 minus arrival time. How we can find out arrival time? Arrival time is given to you as an input. So P1 arrival time is 4. So 9 minus 4 is equal to 5. In this way, you need to calculate the turnaround time for all the processes. Like say for example, one more example we are going to discuss. P2. For P2, how we can find out turnaround time? The turnaround time of P2 is what? Sorry, completion time of P2 is what? 17. So 17 minus arrival time. Arrival time of P2 is 6. So 17 minus 6 is equal to 11. In this way, for example, P5. What is the completion time of P5? 13. 13 minus arrival time. P5 arrival time is 5. So 13 minus 5 is equal to 8. So in this way, you can find out the turnaround time for each process. Now we are going to find out the waiting time for each process. So what is the equation of waiting time? Waiting time is equal to turnaround time minus burst time. So waiting time if you want to calculate for each process, so what is the P1 turnaround time of P1 that we have recently calculated, which is nothing but 5. So 5 is nothing but turnaround time of P1 minus burst time. Burst time is given to you as an input of P1. So 5. 5 minus 5 is equal to 0. Why this? Why zero waiting time we have when we are talking about P1 process? You can see how it comes. You can see from the Gantt chart, like P1 process where it is located over here. Why the waiting time of P1 is 0? Waiting time of a particular process 0 means that process do not require to wait for the resources for execution. So let us justify this sentence with the help of this Gantt chart. So the P1 as far as P1 process is concerned, what is the arrival time of P1 from this table? Arrival time of P1 is what? 4. So arrival time of P1 means at this particular time P1 is arrived in the ready queue. Now what is the time a P1 is scheduled for execution in the process? That is nothing but 4. Again means before the fourth unit, from 3 to 4 the processor was idle. Means what? That process is ready to execute the processes. But when a P1 arrived in the ready queue, immediately, because there is no other processes we have in the ready queue and there is no ongoing execution of another process, so that's why P1 is immediately scheduled for execution in the CPU. So that is the reason why the waiting time of P1 is 0 over here. Same way, suppose P2, if we have P2, so what is the turnaround time of P2? 11 minus burst time of P2 is 4. So 11 minus 4 is equal to 7. So you can easily come to know that what is the waiting time of P2 again 7. How it comes actually? So again you need to verify these things with the help of the inputs that we have and the Gantt chart. Okay, based on these two, we can come to know that how it comes, the waiting time. So P2, where it is located, P2 is here. Okay. Now, what is the arrival time of P2 as far as input is concerned? Arrival time of P2 is what? 6. Okay, it means at a 6 unit of time, P2 is arrived in the ready queue. Now, when it scheduled for execution in the CPU at the time 13. Okay, it was arrived in 6, but it is scheduled in 13. So what is the difference? 13 minus 6 is equal to 7. So P2 has to wait for 7 unit to scheduled in the CPU for execution. Okay, so in this way you can verify the value of waiting time. Okay, P3 again, 3 minus 3 is equal to 0, means 3 is nothing but turnaround time of 3, and burst time of P3 is what? 3. So 3 minus 3 is equal to 0. Again P3 do not require, because P3 the scheduled time, arrival time of P3 is 0, and scheduled obviously at the time of 0 there is no other choice, only P3 we have. So P3 process will be scheduled immediately for execution on the CPU. So that's why its waiting time is 0, and so on you can calculate. Okay, so these are the turnaround time and waiting time for individual process. Now we need to find out, we have find out waiting time and turnaround time. Now we need to find out the average waiting time and average turnaround time. Till now we have find out the turnaround time and waiting time for each process. Now we need to find out the average waiting time and average turnaround time. So it is very simple. The same table I have taken, process, set of processes we have, completion time, its turnaround time and waiting time. Based on this table we can easily find out average turnaround time. So we have the turnaround time values for each process. Now you need to sum these values, 5 plus 11 plus 3 plus 13 plus 8. divided by number of processes that we have. How many processes we have? 5 processes. So uh, total turnaround time for of individual process divided by number of process is nothing but 40 divided by 5 is equal to 8 units. So 8 unit is nothing but the average turnaround time, okay, in this example, okay, for different process. Now if you want to find out, average waiting time, on an average waiting time, if you want to find out, so how we can find it out? Because already we have find out, find it out, waiting time for individual process. Now so you can sum these values, 0 plus 7 plus 0 plus 11 plus 4 divided by again number of processes that we have. So 22 divided by 5 is equal to 4.4 units. Okay, so in this way you can calculate the average waiting time and average turnaround time, okay, for the given set of input. So I hope it was clear to you. This is very important example for your examination. So specifically to plot the, or okay, say to draw the Gantt chart is very important. So at the time of plotting the Gantt chart, you need to careful about these things. If you made any mistake, okay, so the upcoming calculation will be wrong. So that's why uh, the Gantt chart is very important. Okay, so I hope it is clear to you. Thanks for watching this video.